All right, so we're getting you ready for a student financial support coordinator interview. Talk about high stakes,
Yeah.
right? We're going deep into these RoleCatcher resources and not just surface level.
Yeah.
You know, we want you to really understand what's behind these interview questions.
Oh, it's fascinating because you really need a special blend of skills for this role.
Yeah,
It's a blend of financial expertise, but you also need genuine empathy. You're the one that's guiding students through this complex world of financial aid, and it's often when they're under a lot of stress.
exactly. And that's what RoleCatcher really emphasizes in their guide, right?
Yeah.
That it's not just about the numbers
Right.
and the loans.
Yeah.
It's about being a real resource and an advocate.
Exactly. And I think that's what we're going to uncover as we break down these sample interview questions.
Okay.
So let's start with a very common one.
Okay.
What experience do you have in student financial support?
It seems pretty straightforward,
Right.
but I feel like there's a deeper level to what they're trying to get at.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
What they're really looking for is evidence that you get it.
Yeah.
You understand how multifaceted this role is.
Okay.
So they want to know, have you dealt with the emotional weight of student financial struggles?
Yeah.
Can you articulate how you made a difference, a tangible difference in students' lives?
So how do you even begin to showcase that?
I think sharing specific situations where you actually helped students navigate financial aid,
Okay.
that's really key.
Yeah.
Maybe you helped a student find a scholarship they didn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
Or you advocated for a student who had a particularly difficult situation.
Yeah.
You know, quantifying those achievements,
Yeah.
saying, I helped this many students secure this much funding.
So painting a picture of your impact.
Exactly.
Yeah. What if someone hasn't held this exact title before?
Right.
Can they still draw on other experiences to answer this question?
Absolutely. I think any experience where you demonstrate transferable skills is going to be valuable.
Okay.
So customer service, handling paperwork, even volunteer work that involved financial literacy,
Okay.
those are all things that you can really position to show your capabilities.
So reassuring for people transitioning into this field.
Yeah.
Now, what are some common things that people should avoid when answering this question?
Okay, well, first of all,
Yeah.
don't just list job duties.
Okay.
Right. Instead, connect those experiences back to the specific requirements of this role
Mm-hmm.
and avoid vague answers.
Okay.
Be concrete
Yeah.
and give evidence.
Okay, so clarity and concrete examples are key.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to another question that RoleCatcher includes in their guide.
Okay.
How would you prioritize student financial support requests?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right, this feels like it's really testing judgment and resource management.
It really is.
You-
Because they are looking to see, okay, can you assess urgency?
Mm-hmm.
Can you assess the impact and how to allocate resources effectively?
Okay.
You need to show that you can make tough decisions when demand is high and resources are limited.
So how would you tackle this question?
I would walk them through your decision-making process.
Okay.
So think about, what are the factors you consider first?
Okay.
Is it the financial need of the student,
Mm-hmm.
the impact it'll have on their academic progress?
Okay.
Maybe you have a system for categorizing requests based on the urgency and the resources that are available.
Okay.
Show them that you have a structured approach, but
Mhm.
you're also flexible
Duh.
to handle those unique situations.
So a blend of system and adaptability.
Yes.
Okay. What about some follow-up questions they might ask to really dig into this?
Oh, they might give you a hypothetical. Like,
Yeah.
imagine you have 3 students with very different needs.
Yeah.
How would you prioritize them?
Okay.
And that's when you have to really think on your feet
Okay.
and apply that process.
So preparation is key.
Yeah.
What are some things you should not do when answering this question?
Don't oversimplify it.
Okay.
Don't say, well, I just handle things as they come. Or first come, first served.
Right.
They want to see that you're strategic,
Mhm.
that you have a nuanced approach.
Prove you're a problem solver, not just a task completer.
Exactly.
All right. This next one, I think, is a question that many people struggle with.
Okay.
How would you communicate complex financial information to students?
Oh, yeah.
We've all been there. We've all encountered confusing jargon.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are they really getting at with this question?
It's all about your ability to take that complex information and make it clear and understandable for students.
Okay.
Remember, you're not talking to financial experts.
Right.
These are students often navigating this world for the first time.
Yeah. So how do you make sure that it resonates with them?
I think this is where you tap into that empathy we talked about.
Okay.
Put yourself in their shoes. What terms would be confusing?
Yeah.
What needs to be explained in simpler terms?
Okay.
Use analogies, use real-life examples, ditch the technical jargon.
I love that. Make it relatable. And RoleCatcher even suggests using visual aids.
Visual aids are fantastic.
Yeah.
Like if you think about a simple chart comparing different loan options or a visual breakdown of how interest rates work,
Yeah.
those visuals can be incredibly powerful.
It's like the explain it to your grandma test.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
you can explain HAFSA to your grandma,
Yes.
you're on the right track.
Love that analogy.
All right.
I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
What are some common pitfalls people fall into with this question?
One is don't underestimate the complexity of financial aid. It's easy to assume that everyone understands the basics,
Right.
but that's usually not the case.
Right.
And then also avoid being patronizing.
Okay.
Clarity doesn't mean talking down to students.
Yeah. It's that fine line, right?
Exactly.
Between, explaining it clearly, but also being respectful.
Yes.
What are some follow-up questions they might ask here?
Oh, they could ask you to explain a specific financial aid concept as if you were talking to a student.
Okay.
So maybe loan amortization or the difference between a subsidized and unsubsidized loan.
Okay.
So be ready to break those down.
Yeah. So practice explaining those tricky concepts.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this next question kind of takes a bit of a turn.
Okay.
It's a little bit more emotionally charged.
Okay.
How would you handle a student who is struggling financially and emotionally?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about...
It's not just about the numbers.
Right. It's about being a human.
Exactly. This is where your emotional intelligence comes in. Financial stress really impacts mental health.
Absolutely.
And as a student financial support coordinator, you are often on the front lines.
Yeah. So how do you even begin to approach a situation like that with sensitivity?
First and foremost, you listen.
Okay.
Let that student express their concerns without interruption.
Yeah.
Validate their feelings.
Yeah.
Acknowledge how difficult their situation is. Don't jump into problem-solving mode right away.
Okay.
Just create a space where they feel safe to open up.
So build that trust before you start giving solutions.
Exactly. And then once you understand their situation,
Yeah.
that's when you can start exploring options.
Okay.
Do they know about all the resources?
Mm-hmm.
Emergency hardship funds?
Yeah.
Could you help them create a budget?
Okay.
Connect them with a counselor?
Okay.
You're the resource navigator?
I love that.
Yeah.
Not just the provider.
Exactly.
Right.
And remember, self-care is important.
Oh, that's so important.
Both for you and for the student.
Yeah.
Because dealing with these situations can be emotionally draining.
Absolutely.
So make sure you have your own support system.
Yeah, have your own coping mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good reminder. What are some things to avoid when answering this question?
Don't minimize their struggles. So
Yeah.
saying things like, I understand what you're going through,
Yeah.
or it could be worse,
Right.
can sound really dismissive.
Yeah.
And then also don't overpromise.
Okay.
You can't solve all their problems,
Right.
but you can be a supportive guide.
Right. So empathy, realism,
Yeah.
and knowing your limits.
Yes.
Okay. What about follow-up questions? What could they ask to kind of dig a little deeper here?
Okay, well, they might ask about specific resources available at their institution,
Okay.
or how you would handle a student who's resistant to getting help.
Good.
So be ready to show your knowledge and your ability to navigate those challenging interpersonal dynamics.
Okay. So think about those nuanced scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's switch gears to a question that I think has a little bit broader perspective.
Okay.
How would you ensure that all students have access to financial support?
That's a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
This is about equities and
Yeah.
accessibility.
It is. They want to see that you understand the systemic barriers
Yeah.
that can prevent students from accessing support.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for your commitment
Okay.
to creating a more equitable system.
So how do you showcase that?
Talk about being proactive.
Okay.
Proactive outreach. How
Yeah.
would you reach students who don't even know where to start? Would you collaborate with other departments on campus to identify at-risk students?
Okay.
Would you create materials in multiple languages
Okay.
or formats?
So going beyond the traditional financial aid office and really being a presence on campus.
Exactly. And don't forget about cultural sensitivity.
Oh, that's so important.
Right. Financial aid systems can be challenging.
Yeah.
For students from marginalized communities.
Absolutely.
They may have different experiences and understandings.
Yeah, it's about being sensitive to those nuances and really making sure that the system is inclusive.
Yes.
Okay. What are some common mistakes people make when answering this question?
Don't assume everyone has equal access,
Right.
because they don't.
Right.
And avoid making generalizations about specific student populations,
Okay.
because each student has unique needs.
So individual support within a framework of equity and accessibility.
Exactly.
Got it. Any potential follow-up questions they might ask here?
They might ask about specific initiatives you would implement to improve access for a certain student group, or how you would advocate for more funding for financial aid programs.
Okay.
So be ready to showcase your commitment to action and your understanding of those systemic changes that are needed.
So back up your vision with those concrete strategies.
Yes.
Okay. This next one I think is really vital in a field that's constantly changing.
Okay.
How do you stay up to date on changes in financial aid policies?
Oh, this is key.
Right. Because things are always changing.
All the time.
Regulations, programs.
Yeah.
How do you prove that you're staying current?
This is all about demonstrating you're committed to continuous learning.
Okay.
So interviewers want to see that you have strategies in place to stay informed.
Okay, so how do you show that?
Highlight those professional development opportunities.
Okay.
Are you a member of NASFA?
Mm-hmm.
Do you attend conferences,
Okay.
workshops, webinars?
Okay.
Do you subscribe to newsletters or journals?
Okay.
Mention those resources you follow. That shows that you're active.
Mm-hmm. So it's not just about knowing the policies, it's about having a system for staying ahead.
Exactly.
Okay. What are some common mistakes to avoid with this one?
Okay, well, one,
Yeah.
don't just rely on your employer for information. You know, financial aid policies can really vary between institutions.
That's true.
So show that you're seeking information from multiple sources.
So show initiative and that you're thirsty for that knowledge.
Yes.
Okay. What about potential follow-up questions they might ask here?
Oh, they might ask about a specific policy change and how you incorporated that into your work.
Okay.
So be ready to discuss
Yeah.
those real-world applications of your knowledge.
Connect those dots.
Yeah.
Okay. This next one gets into those financial management skills.
Okay.
How do you manage student financial support budgets?
Ooh.
Right? Because again, it's not just
But
about...
more than just basic budgeting.
Right. Exactly. It's about making strategic decisions.
Yeah. Yes. They want to see if you can balance the needs of those students with the overall financial goals of the institution.
Yeah. So how do you showcase those skills?
Detail your budgeting process.
Okay.
Do you analyze historical data to predict future needs? Do you create a budget that prioritizes certain programs, certain populations?
Okay.
Do you track expenses and make adjustments as needed?
So it's about having a clear framework.
Yes.
And being data-driven.
Exactly.
Okay. What are some common mistakes people make when answering this question?
Okay, well, don't underestimate the importance of collaboration. Financial aid budgets are rarely managed in isolation.
Right.
So talk about how you would work with other departments, admissions, student affairs, to ensure alignment.
So show that you can collaborate, that you're strategic.
Yes.
Okay. Any potential follow-up questions here?
Oh, they could give you a specific budget scenario. Maybe a sudden increase in demand for a particular type of aid.
Okay.
How would you handle that?
Okay.
So be ready to think on your feet.
Okay.
And show those problem-solving skills.
Okay. So apply your knowledge in a practical setting.
Yeah.
Okay. This next one is all about measuring impact.
Okay.
How do you measure the effectiveness of student financial support programs?
That's important.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just have programs you need to know if they're working.
Right. They want to know, are you just going through the motions?
Yeah.
Or are you really invested in making a difference? And are you evaluating things?
So how can you show that you are all about measuring that impact?
I think you start by highlighting the importance of data-driven decision-making.
Okay.
Emphasize that you wouldn't just rely on intuition. You would use clear metrics to track the program outcomes.
Okay.
So you could conduct surveys to gauge student satisfaction.
Okay.
You could analyze data to identify trends, track key performance indicators like loan default rates and graduation rates.
Okay.
So choose metrics that are aligned with the goals of the program.
Okay. So it's about really showing that you're evaluating and you're continuously improving.
Yes.
What are some common mistakes to avoid when answering this question?
One is to be too narrow.
Okay.
So don't limit yourself to just one or two metrics.
Okay.
Program evaluation should be multifaceted.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to consider a variety of factors.
Okay.
And then the second thing is avoid being too vague.
Okay.
So don't just say, well, I'm improving student outcomes.
Yeah.
What outcomes?
Right.
How do you know they're being achieved?
So be specific and make sure those data points are connected to the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay. What about potential follow-up questions?
Oh, they might ask you to elaborate on a specific method.
Oh.
Like, how would you design a student satisfaction survey?
Okay.
So be prepared to discuss your approach to data collection,
Okay.
analysis, and reporting. Show that you understand the mechanics of program evaluation.
Be ready to dive into those details.
Yes.
Okay. Our last question for this part of the deep dive really gets to the heart of data security.
Okay.
How do you maintain confidentiality when dealing with student financial information?
Ooh, yes.
This is crucial,
right.
Especially given the sensitive nature of all the data.
Absolutely. This is about understanding those ethical and legal obligations regarding student data privacy.
Yeah. So how can a candidate demonstrate that they take this seriously?
Okay, so start by talking about FERPA,
Okay.
the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act,
Yeah.
and really show that you understand its requirements.
Okay.
And then discuss specific practices you would implement. Okay, so maybe secure file storage, password protecting documents, training staff on data privacy protocols.
So go beyond, I'll keep things confidential.
Exactly.
Prove it.
And don't forget transparency.
Okay.
Students have the right to know how their data is being used. It's true. And protected.
Yeah.
So communicate those practices clearly.
Yeah.
And be available to answer their questions.
So transparency builds trust
It does.
and shows that you really take this seriously.
Yes.
Okay. What are some mistakes people make when answering this question?
Don't underestimate the importance of training.
Okay.
Data privacy is an ongoing concern, and regular staff training is key.
Absolutely.
And the second thing is technology alone isn't the solution.
Okay.
You need comprehensive policies and procedures in place to protect that student data at every level.
So combine technology with that human oversight
Yes.
to really create a robust system.
Yeah.
Okay. Any potential follow-up questions for this one?
Oh, they could ask you about a specific data breach scenario.
Okay.
How would you handle it?
Okay.
Be prepared to walk them through your response plan.
Okay.
So how would you notify the students?
Yeah.
How would you mitigate the damage? How would you prevent future breaches?
So be prepared for those worst-case scenarios.
Yes.
Show that you have a plan.
Yeah.
Okay. We've covered a lot of ground with those sample questions for RoleCatcher.
Yeah.
But before we move on to part 2, I want to take a moment to highlight how RoleCatcher's AI features can really be a game changer for your interview prep.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just the information, it's how their AI can really personalize your approach.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's start with the CV and resume builder.
Okay.
You can actually use the AI to tailor your resume for the student financial support coordinator role.
Wow.
The AI analyzes the job description, and then it suggests relevant skills and experiences to highlight.
That's awesome. So it's like having a personal resume writer who knows exactly what the employer is looking for.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
Oh, it goes even further than that.
Okay.
It can help you optimize your answers to those application questions,
Okay.
offering suggestions and feedback.
So it's like a virtual coach, kind of guiding you through every step.
Uh-huh.
All right, what about the interview itself?
For the interview, their AI can actually analyze your video rehearsals.
Whoa.
And it'll give you feedback on your delivery, your body language, even the content of your answers.
So it's like having a personal interview coach
Yes.
to really fine-tune everything.
Uh-huh. And the best part is you can try all these AI features for free
Really?
with a RoleCatcher account.
So why not give it a try?
I know, right?
That's amazing. All right, well, that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into preparing for a student financial support coordinator interview. We've covered a lot of ground, but we're not done yet. Join us for part 2, where we'll continue exploring those challenging interview questions and delve deeper into the intricacies of this rewarding role.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of student financial support coordinator interviews. We're picking up where we left off, armed with insights from RoleCatcher and ready to tackle even more challenging questions.
I'm ready for it.
All right, let's dive into this one. What are some strategies you would use to manage student financial support budgets effectively?
This one seems like it's really testing that strategic thinking around resource allocation.
It is. They want to see that you understand the big picture.
Okay.
So start by highlighting your awareness of the institution's policies and the overall budget. Then talk about doing a needs assessment
Okay.
to understand the student demographics
Okay.
and identify any specific groups with higher needs.
So connecting those budget numbers with the actual students they represent.
Exactly. Once you have that foundation, then you can dive into those specific strategies.
Okay.
This is where you can talk about implementing a system for tracking expenses,
Okay.
creating a budget that prioritizes key areas,
Mm-hmm.
and exploring potential cost-saving measures.
So being proactive and having a plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't forget to emphasize collaboration.
Okay.
Budgets are rarely managed in isolation.
Right.
So mention working with other departments,
Okay.
like admissions and student affairs, to ensure alignment with the institution's goals.
Teamwork and seeing the big picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, what about some potential follow-up questions?
Yeah. What could they ask to really put your budgeting skills to the test?
Oh, they could present you with a hypothetical.
Okay.
Imagine our scholarship fund just got a big donation. How would you allocate it?
Okay.
So be ready to think on your feet.
Okay.
Apply those budgeting principles and justify your decisions.
Okay. So really think strategically and prioritize effectively.
Yes. Now, what are some things to avoid?
Okay. Yeah. What should people not say?
Don't just use generic budgeting terms.
That's right.
Right? Anyone can say monitor expenses or create a budget.
Right.
Offer concrete examples.
Right.
From your experience,
Mm-hmm.
did you identify areas to save money?
Okay.
Did you implement a new tracking system that improved efficiency?
So back it up with real-world experience. Okay. Let's shift gears to another question from the RoleCatcher Interview Guide. How would you measure the effectiveness of student financial support programs?
Oh, this is getting to the heart of it.
Right.
Impact and accountability.
Yes. They want to know if you're just going through the motions or are you truly making a difference.
Exactly. They're looking for someone who takes evaluations seriously.
Okay. So how can a candidate demonstrate that?
Start by emphasizing the importance of data-driven decision-making.
Yeah.
Let them know you won't rely on intuition.
Right.
You'll establish clear metrics
Okay.
to track those outcomes.
Yeah.
So you can do surveys to gauge student satisfaction, analyze financial aid data
Yeah.
to spot trends.
Okay.
You can track things like loan default rates and
Okay.
graduation rates.
So showing them you're evaluating and continuously improving.
Exactly. And don't forget about qualitative data.
Well, that's important.
Student testimonials, feedback from faculty and staff.
Right.
Even those anecdotal stories
Yeah.
can provide really valuable insight.
Okay. So those human stories combined with the data.
Yes. Now, are there common pitfalls to avoid?
Yeah. What should people not do when answering this one?
Don't limit yourself to just one or two metrics.
Okay.
Evaluation should be multifaceted.
Yeah.
And consider a variety of factors. And avoid vague statements,
Okay.
like improving student outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Be specific.
Right.
What outcomes are you talking about?
Yeah.
And how will you measure their success?
Okay. So be specific. Use a variety of data points.
Yes.
And make sure they're connected to the overall objectives.
Absolutely. Now, what about some follow-up questions?
Yeah. What might they ask to dig a little deeper into those evaluation methods?
They might ask you to elaborate on a specific method.
Okay.
Like, how would you design a student satisfaction survey?
Okay.
So be ready to discuss your approach
Okay.
to data collection, analysis, and reporting.
Okay. So show that you understand how to actually DO program evaluation.
Yes. Be ready to dive into those details.
Okay. Now, this next question from RoleCatcher is really important because it gets to the heart of being an effective and compassionate coordinator.
Yeah.
How would you handle a situation where a student is struggling financially and emotionally?
Oh, this is a tough one.
Right. It's not just about numbers anymore.
It's about being human.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how do you even approach a situation like that with sensitivity?
Start by emphasizing active listening.
Okay.
Create that safe space
Mm-hmm.
for the student to share their concerns.
Yeah.
Let them know you're there to support them.
Yeah.
Validate their feelings.
Okay.
Avoid interrupting or jumping into problem-solving mode.
Okay. So really build that rapport and trust before giving solutions.
Exactly. Then once you've heard their story,
Yeah.
you can start exploring options.
Right.
Do they know about the resources available to them,
Hmm.
like emergency funds
Got it.
or scholarships?
Okay.
Could you connect them with a counselor?
Oh.
Help them create a budget.
So it's about being a resource navigator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't forget about self-care.
Oh, yeah. It's so important.
both for you and the student.
Yeah.
Because dealing with these situations can be really emotionally draining.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some pitfalls to avoid when answering this question?
Don't minimize their struggles.
Okay.
Phrases like, I understand what you're going through,
Yeah.
or it could be worse,
Right.
can sound really dismissive.
Okay. So be empathetic and validate their feelings.
Yes, and avoid overpromising.
Okay.
You're not going to magically solve all their problems,
Right.
but you can be a supportive guide.
Be realistic, be supportive, and know your limits.
Exactly. Now, what about some follow-up questions?
Yeah. What might they ask to dig deeper into how you approach these sensitive situations?
They might ask you about specific resources at their institution,
Okay.
or how you'd handle a student who's resistant to getting help.
Mm-hmm.
They might even ask how you'd balance your responsibilities to the student
Yeah.
with the policies of the institution.
Okay. So really be ready to think through those situations.
Yes, show your problem-solving skills.
All right. Let's tackle another question from the RoleCatcher Interview Guide.
Okay.
This one addresses a crucial aspect of the role.
Yeah.
How would you ensure that all L students have access to financial support, regardless of their background or circumstances?
This is about equity and inclusivity.
It is. They're looking for someone who gets it.
Yes.
Someone who understands the barriers
Absolutely.
that prevent certain students from accessing aid.
Yes, and they want to see that you're committed
Okay.
to creating a more equitable system.
So how can a candidate demonstrate that commitment?
Talk about proactive outreach.
All right.
How would you reach students who don't even know where to begin?
Yeah.
Would you collaborate with other departments
Okay.
to identify at-risk students?
Okay.
Would you create materials in multiple languages
Mm-hmm.
or formats?
So going beyond the traditional financial aid office.
Exactly.
And actively engaging with the campus community.
Yes, and don't forget about cultural sensitivity.
Oh, that is so important.
Financial aid can be really challenging for students from marginalized communities.
Absolutely. They might have different experiences and understanding.
Exactly. So it's about building a system
Yeah.
that's truly inclusive and welcoming for everyone.
Oh.
Okay.
Right. Are there common mistakes to avoid when answering this question?
Avoid assuming everyone has equal access,
Okay.
because they don't.
Right.
And avoid generalizations
Oh,
about
no.
specific student groups.
Mm-hmm.
Each student is unique.
Okay. So focus on that individual support
Yes.
within a framework of equity and accessibility.
Exactly. Now, what about some follow-up questions?
Yeah. What might they ask to dig deeper into your approach to creating that equitable system?
They might ask about specific initiatives you'd implement
Okay.
to improve access,
Mhm.
or how you'd advocate for increased funding.
Okay.
Be ready to showcase that commitment
Yeah.
and your understanding of those systemic changes.
So back up your vision with action and strategy.
Yes. Now let's move on to a question that's crucial in this constantly changing field.
All right. Yeah. What is it?
How do you stay up to date on changes in financial aid policies?
Oh, this is so important. Things are always changing.
All the time.
New regulations, new programs.
Yes, it's about demonstrating your commitment to continuous learning.
Right. So how can a candidate show that they're on top of those changes?
Highlight those professional development opportunities.
Okay.
Are you a member of NASFA?
Mm-hmm.
Do you attend conferences, workshops, webinars?
Okay.
Do you subscribe to newsletters or journals?
Okay.
Mention those resources you follow.
Okay. So not just knowing the policies, but having a system for staying ahead.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to mention specific examples
Okay.
of how you've adapted
Yeah.
to recent changes.
Okay.
Have you learned about a new loan forgiveness program
Mm-hmm.
or updated your AFSA knowledge?
Okay. So those real-world applications are key.
Yes, show them you're not just reading, but applying that knowledge.
Okay. Show you're adaptable and committed to learning.
Absolutely. Now, what are some common mistakes?
Yeah. What should people try to avoid when answering this one?
Don't rely solely on your employer for information.
Okay.
Policies vary between institutions.
Yeah, that's true.
So be proactive, seek information from various sources.
Okay. Show that initiative and thirst for knowledge.
Yes. Now, what about potential follow-up questions?
Okay. What might they ask to test your ability to actually apply that knowledge?
They could ask you about a specific policy change
Definitely.
and how you incorporated it.
Okay.
Be ready to discuss those real-world implications.
So connect those dots.
Yeah. Because now this next question gets into those financial management skills.
Okay.
How do you manage student financial support budgets?
Right. It's not just about basic budgeting.
It's about making strategic decisions.
Yes, when resources are limited and the stakes are high.
Exactly. They want to see if you can balance
Mhm.
the needs of the students with the institution's financial goals.
Right. So how do you showcase those skills?
Talk about your process.
Okay.
Do you analyze historical data to predict future needs? Do you create a budget that prioritizes
Okay.
certain programs or populations?
Okay.
Do you track expenses and make adjustments?
So having that clear framework
Yes.
and data-driven approach.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to talk about ethics.
Okay.
Sometimes tough choices have to be made, so
Right.
be transparent about your decision-making process.
So you're not just thinking about numbers.
Right.
You're thinking about the impact on those students.
Exactly. Now, what are some common mistakes?
Yeah. What should people avoid?
Don't underestimate collaboration.
Okay.
Budgets are rarely managed in isolation.
Right.
So talk about working with other departments
Okay.
to ensure alignment with those overall goals.
So show them you're a team player
Yes,
and that you understand how your role fits in.
absolutely. Now, what about potential follow-up questions?
Yeah. What could they ask to really test those budgeting skills?
They might present a specific scenario,
Okay.
like a sudden increase in demand for a specific aid type. And how would you handle it?
Okay. So apply your knowledge in that real-world setting.
Yes. Be prepared to problem solve.
Okay. Now, this next question is all about measuring those programs' effectiveness.
Okay.
How do you measure the effectiveness of student financial support programs?
This is about thinking critically
Right.
about program evaluation.
Yeah. It's not enough to just have e-programs.
Right.
You need to know they're working.
Exactly. They want someone who can analyze the data
Okay.
and use it to make good decisions.
So how can a candidate demonstrate that they are that data-driven decision maker?
Talk about the specific metrics you'd use.
Okay.
How would you measure student satisfaction?
Okay.
Would you track loan defaults,
Okay.
graduation rates,
Mm-hmm.
post-graduation earnings?
Okay.
Choose metrics that align with the goals.
So choose the right metrics and tell the story of the program's impact.
Yes. And don't forget qualitative data,
Oh, it's so important.
student stories, faculty feedback.
Yeah.
Those can provide valuable insights.
Okay. So balance those quantitative and qualitative approaches.
Yes. Now, what are some common mistakes?
Yeah. What should people avoid doing when answering this question?
Don't rely solely on numbers.
Okay.
Numbers are persuasive,
Yeah.
but they don't tell the whole story.
Okay.
So talk about gathering qualitative data as well.
All right. Combine those approaches.
Yes. Any potential follow-up questions?
Yeah. What might they ask to dig into your methods a little more?
They might ask you to discuss a specific method,
Okay.
like a student satisfaction survey.
Okay.
And how would you design and implement it?
Okay.
So show your knowledge of those evaluation techniques and how to adapt them.
Okay. So be ready to get into those details.
Yes. Now, before we move on, I want to talk about RoleCatcher
Okay. Yeah.
and how it can help you prepare.
Okay.
We've been talking about the resources,
Right.
but I think it's important to highlight those AI features.
Yeah. They're amazing.
They can really give you an edge.
They can.
Huh.
So tell us, how can a candidate use them to their advantage?
Okay, start with the CV and resume builder.
Okay.
You can use their AI to tailor your resume,
Okay.
specifically for this role.
Okay.
The AI analyzes the job description
Mhm.
and highlights the most relevant skills
That's awesome.
to make your resume stand out.
It's like having a personal resume writer.
Exactly.
All right.
And it goes even further.
Okay. What else?
Their AI can help you optimize your answers to those application questions.
Okay.
It gives you suggestions and feedback.
It's like a virtual coach.
Exactly. Guiding you through the whole process.
Okay. What about the interview itself?
For the interview, their AI can analyze your video rehearsals
Wow.
and give you feedback on your delivery,
Right.
body language, and even content.
It's like having a personal interview coach.
Yes.
Fine-tuning every aspect.
And the best part,
Yeah.
it's all free
Great.
with a RoleCatcher account.
So why not give it a try?
I know, right? You have nothing to lose.
And we are back for the final part of our deep dive on prepping for that student financial support coordinator interview. We've covered so much ground.
We have.
From really just getting to the heart of the role itself to tackling some tough questions.
Yeah, we've gone through some challenging scenarios and explored RoleCatcher's resources.
Yes.
Especially those AI features.
Yeah.
To really help you gain an edge.
Absolutely.
Now, let's wrap up with a few more key questions.
Okay.
And insights to really boost that confidence.
Sounds great.
I'm ready.
All right. Let's jump in with this one. How do you stay informed about those changes in financial aid policies and regulations?
Yeah, it's a fast-paced world.
It is.
Things are always changing, so staying updated is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this question is about showing your commitment to continuous learning.
Right. So how can a candidate really stand out when answering this question?
Well, I always appreciate when candidates go beyond just saying they read industry publications.
Okay.
Really show you're engaged.
Mention specific journals or newsletters that you follow.
Okay.
Like, NASFA's publications.
Mm-hmm.
If you can name a recent article that really impacted your understanding of the field.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Show them you're not just passively reading, but you're actively absorbing that information.
Exactly. And don't forget about those professional development opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
Attending conferences, webinars, taking online courses.
Yep.
Really demonstrate that commitment to keeping your skills sharp.
It's a great way to show you're invested in that professional growth.
Absolutely.
It's also an awesome way to network with other professionals.
Oh, networking's so valuable in this field. Mentioning involvement in professional organizations shows you're connected and engaged with the community.
Right. It shows you're not just working solo. You're really part of something bigger.
Exactly. Now, what about some potential follow-up questions?
Okay. Yeah. What could they ask to really see how well a candidate stays informed?
Well, they could ask you to describe a recent change in a policy.
Okay.
And explain how you adapted to comply.
So really connect your knowledge to real-world practice.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift to a question about ethics.
Right.
Describe a time when you had to maintain confidentiality regarding a student's financial information.
Yeah, this is huge. It's about integrity.
It is.
And those ethical boundaries.
Absolutely. You're handling sensitive information, so they need to know you can be trusted.
Okay, so what's the best approach to answering this one?
I would start by acknowledging the importance of FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act.
Yes.
Explain those key principles.
Okay.
Then share an example from your experience where you navigated a situation with confidential information.
So ground your personal experience in that legal context.
Exactly. Don't just say, I kept things confidential.
Right.
Walk them through it.
Okay.
The steps you took to ensure privacy and the outcome.
So really illustrate that ethical decision-making process.
Yes. What about some potential follow-up questions?
Okay. Yeah. What could they ask to test a candidate's ethical judgment even further?
Oh, they could present a hypothetical scenario where there's a conflict between a student's privacy and the need to share information. Be prepared to consider those ethical implications and explain your approach.
So it's about showing that you can make those tough calls responsibly.
Yes. All right, let's move on to a question that tests interpersonal skills.
Okay.
How would you handle a disagreement with a colleague about a student's eligibility?
Oh, conflict resolution. That's a big one.
It is. They want to see you can handle these situations professionally.
Right, because disagreements happen.
They do.
So how do you show you can navigate that, especially with such a sensitive topic?
Well, start by emphasizing open communication and respect. Explain that you would first try to understand their perspective and the reasons behind their assessment. So active listening and really trying to see their viewpoint.
Exactly. Then you present your perspective, but make sure it's supported by policies and procedures. Focus on finding common ground, a solution that's best for the student.
So assertive but collaborative.
Yes. Find that balance between advocating for your position and working together.
Now, what are some things to avoid saying when answering this question?
Don't dismiss your colleague's opinion or resort to personal attacks. Keep it professional. Focus on facts, policies, and the student's needs.
So keep it objective and focused on finding that fair solution.
Yes. Any potential follow-up questions?
What might they ask to dig deeper into those conflict resolution skills?
Oh, they might ask about a specific technique you've used. Or how you'd handle a disagreement with your supervisor. So be ready to problem solve.
All right. Flex those muscles. Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to talk about some broader tips for acing that interview.
It's not just about answering questions, right? It's about presenting yourself confidently.
Yes, it's about showing you genuinely care about this work.
Exactly. So what are some non-obvious things that can really make a candidate stand out?
I'm always impressed when someone comes prepared with insightful questions about the institution or their programs.
Oh, that's a good tip.
It shows they've done their research. and are genuinely interested.
They're not just there to answer questions.
Exactly. They want to learn more.
They want to have a conversation.
Yes. What else?
Okay.
Showcase that passion for supporting students.
Oh, yes.
This is more than just a job.
Absolutely.
You're making a difference.
You are.
Share a story about a student you've helped.
Right?
Talk about your volunteer work.
Yeah.
Let your enthusiasm shine through.
Let that passion be your guide.
Yes. And don't underestimate soft skills.
Those are so important.
Communication, empathy, problem solving. These are all essential.
They are.
So don't just say you have them. Give examples.
Yeah. Paint a picture.
Yes. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. What's your final piece of advice?
Go in there confident and prepared.
Yeah.
You've got this.
You do.
And remember RoleCatcher's resources.
Yes.
Especially that AI can really help you shine.
Awesome advice.
Yeah.
So to recap, prepare thoroughly, showcase your passion, highlight those soft skills, and most importantly, believe in yourself.
Yes. You have everything you need.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into prepping for that Student Financial Support Coordinator interview. We hope you found this helpful and insightful. Best of luck with your interview.
You got this.
Remember, you're not just going for a job.
Yeah.
You're pursuing a career where you can make a real difference in students' lives.
That's right. Go out there and crush it.